All right, this will be part 2 in the lesson series, Building Strong Memories Takes Work and Wisdom. So what are the best practices that psychologists recommend for increasing our storage strength so that we can enjoy high retrieval strength? Well, it's kind of this combination of elements here. We want to repeat our study sessions, we want to space out our study sessions with sleep in between, and we want to use good study techniques like retrieval practice. And I'll mention some others a little later on. So let's take them one at a time. Repetition. Notice after the first study session, we have low storage strength. And biologically, what that would mean is we have weak synapses among memory trace neurons. So we have weak memory traces in the cortex. After all, we only studied once. But after we study a second time and a third time, we're going to have high storage strength. Biologically, what that means is we have strong synapses among memory trace neurons. So why does it take repetition? Evidently, cortical neurons are lower plasticity neurons compared to the hippocampus. Hippocampal neurons will grow strong synapses with one episode of learning. Cortical neurons seem to require multiple activations to grow strong synapses. So we have to study the same stuff multiple times to really make strong memory traces in the cerebral cortex. And now spacing. Now we saw, ideally we want sleep in between our study sessions. And let's first take a look at that. We have learned that when we go to sleep, our brain is actually reprocessing the day's learning. The hippocampal memory traces get reactivated. We call that hippocampal replay. And those hippocampal memory traces are sending signals up to the cortical memory traces, reactivating them and sort of instructing them to grow stronger synapses up there in the cortex. And we call this memory consolidation. So when we go to sleep, our brain is sort of trying to install the recently learned information into the long-term memory system. The hippocampus made a good strong memory trace for the day's learning, and that will be used to strengthen the weaker cortical memory traces to get them nice and strong so we can have a long-term memory for that information. And so after each study session, of course, if we get to go to sleep, then we're going to enjoy the consolidation process. So we want to study multiple times with sleep in between because it's during sleep that our brain is really strengthening those cortical memory traces. And that's why we have the sleep shows the bump in the storage strength, because that's where a lot of the work is happening to strengthen our cortical memory traces. Now, we also mentioned spacing. If you had to just study one day before an assessment or something, remember we said, but don't make a 3-hour straight study session. You want to have shorter study sessions with breaks in between. And that spacing allows for different sets of hippocampal neurons to be processing the repeated study sessions. So just spacing is a good idea. Reduce the length of your study sessions, have more study sessions, shorter, with breaks in between. But definitely we want sleep in between our study sessions. And finally, retrieval practice. Here, the idea is every time we retrieve information, our brain is going to have to reconsolidate that later on during sleep. So when we retrieve a memory, it becomes like a new memory. The hippocampal neurons are going to make a new memory trace that can be replayed during sleep and used to strengthen the cortical memory traces. So in this sense, then, retrieval practice is helping us increase storage strength. Every time we retrieve a memory, it's helping our brain strengthen that memory. So building strong memories in our cerebral cortex does take work. We've got to have good time management. We've got to, study the same stuff multiple times with sleep in between. We want to use the good techniques. And oftentimes the best study techniques that psychologists recommend that has evidence, scientific evidence behind them, the best techniques tend to be the difficult techniques. It's rather easy to just reread your notes or highlight something, but doing retrieval practice is more challenging. Sometimes we fail to retrieve and we feel like we're not learning, but we want to use those moments to go back and restudy and just get in a cycle of processing information and then testing ourselves to see how strong is our memory for that information. So other study techniques like making concept maps or reorganizing information or drawing out diagrams that represent the learned information or teaching somebody else the information. These are all excellent study techniques. And the good study techniques are the ones that really engage the brain. So we can think that memory is the residue of thought. So any study techniques that increase the amount of thinking you're doing for that information is going to benefit you. Retrieval practice happens to be a really good study technique, and we've already seen that it's good because it can help increase the storage strength of our memories, but in a moment we're going to see it has another benefit. Now, to understand this other benefit of retrieval practice, let's consider a puzzling situation. There are times when we might have high storage strength for some information that we learned well in the past, but yet we have low retrieval strength for that information. Now, why would this be? This often happens when we have not accessed that information. We haven't retrieved that information in a long time. In other words, disuse. We haven't used the information. And scientists then highlight this feature of our brains. It's a way we can forget something that was once well learned. We forget it because our brain has lost access to it. So this illustrates that it's not enough to just have well stored memories in our brain. That does not guarantee retrieval. You also have to be able to find these well stored memories. So our brain can lose access. The searching systems can fail to find a strongly stored memory trace. Now, why do scientists think that these memory traces are still there? They're strong, but they just can't be found because we can quickly relearn the information and regain high retrieval strength for that information. And the relearning happens much more quickly than the original learning. So that's evidence that the strong memory traces were still there. It's just our brain lost access to those memory traces. Notice then there are two forms of forgetting. There's the forgetting that results from disuse. Our brain has lost access. The brain can't find those strong memory traces. And then there's the forgetting as a consequence of poor consolidation. We have low retrieval strength due to low storage strength. Now here's the second benefit of retrieval practice. Earlier we mentioned that retrieval practice helps us increase storage strength, because when we retrieve a memory, we kind of make a new memory that will be consolidated when we go to sleep. But notice what retrieval practice also does. It's going to maintain strong retrieval pathways. So retrieval practice is exercising the brain's searching system, right? We need to be able to find all these memories, and these are neural circuits. And when we practice retrieving, we're strengthening the searching systems so we can find the memories that we want on a particular occasion. So notice then, retrieval practice prevents both forms of forgetting. By practicing memory retrieval, we are exercising our retrieval pathways so that we won't lose access to it. But also, we are giving the brain another chance to do consolidation during sleep. So retrieval practice has double benefit. And then a third benefit we saw earlier was it provides excellent metacognition for how strong are the memories in our long-term memory system. Unfortunately, there are many students who suffer from poor consolidation, and most often this is a result of a lifestyle choice. They are choosing to cram. So by cramming, by definition, you're just sort of studying once before an assessment, you are going to leave yourself with low storage strength, which produces low retrieval strength. And there will be fast forgetting, because storage strength determines the rate of forgetting. So we might be able to cram our way to a B on a quiz, or maybe even an A, but the price of that will be fast forgetting. So theoretically, we could cram our way through school and at the end of the process have nothing to show for it. In summary then, the take-home message, we want to align our study practices with the biology of memory. So by understanding a little bit about how the brain processes information, makes some memory, and then retrieves a memory, now we can sort of see why these study practices are the recommended ones, why these are the ones that are going to give us the best chance of maximizing our performance for any learning challenge we might find in school or elsewhere.